Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the new chapter. So, in this new chapter, you will learn how to persuade someone and how to influence someone to do better in your business life and in your personal life. I have personally tested these bulletproof strategies during my time as I was one of the top sales professionals at Destiny Go, a travel agency, and I am confident the persuasion methodology will work for you also. So, once again, welcome. So, in this section, we are going to talk about how you can build your rapport. You build rapport when you develop mutual trust, friendship, and affinity with someone. Now, when it comes to being persuasive, one of the most important key aspect is to be likable. Because if people don't like you, it's going to be very difficult for you to persuade them to do anything or even listen to you for that matter. I remember a few years ago when I was starting out my sales career, one of the first things that they taught us was how to become likable. This is not being desperate to get people to like you because you are insecure. It means really understanding people on a subconscious level and understanding the triggers that will make them perceive you in a positive light so that you can be more persuasive from their perspective. I want you to think about this. If you are in a position where you really like somebody and you like what they say, you like what they stand for, and you like just their overall brand, of course, you are going to listen to them a lot more than somebody else that you don't like and you don't agree with and you just don't want to be around. So once you get people to like you, they are going to be so much more receptive to listening to everything that you are saying, and if they listen, you have an opportunity to share your message with them and persuade them to take an action. Now in this lesson specifically, we are going to go 3 levels deep. In the top, I am going to show you from surface level how to get people to like you and build that instant connection, and then we are going to dive deeper into the subconscious. So if you can understand from a psychological perspective what the key triggers are that you can touch and pull so that you can get people to like you from a neuro-linguistic standpoint, from a surface level perspective, the first thing that we are going to talk about is the idea of similarity, and that is people like other people who are very similar to them. Okay, and this one is very obvious. It could be things like certain interest, certain hobbies, how you dress. Maybe you guys both like basketball. So these are all surface level things that you can use to build a commonality with somebody else and get the conversation going. And when you have a common interest with someone else, they are just so much willing to listen to everything else you have to say. So for example, for me, I am somebody that loves to travel. I love business. I love talking about fitness and fashion. So if another guy came up to me and he knew that those are the things that I cared about, if he also talked about those things, in my head I am going to think, wow, this guy is very similar to me. He likes to travel. He likes talking about business. He likes fashion, and he also likes music, which I like. So there's a common connection. Obviously you are not talking about deeply what someone that really stands for, is just like surface level interest, but that's what's going to get the ball rolling so that you can move on to the next step and get them to like you even more. Number 1, find that common set of interests that you can relate on, and then you can move deeper. Now we are going to dive a little bit into the psychology of things. Now there's a study done by UCLA where they found that there are 3 main variables that people use to determine whether or not they like you within the first 5 seconds of meeting you. And so these are going to be the elements of communication. So obviously the biggest piece of this pie chart which you are seeing on the screen is body language, which is going to be 55%. So this is going to be how you dress, how you look, and how you walk in. Just your overall energy that your body gives off to another person, that's going to signal whether or not they like you. In second piece of the pie is going to be tonality, आपकी आवाज़, which is the pitch. You are speaking at your volume and your space, at what speed, and आपका pitch कैसा है, आपका pace कैसा है. And so we are going to have a little bit deeper into this lesson, so don't worry, just have an idea of that. How you say, what you say is going to be 38% of whether or not someone likes you. आपकी आवाज़ की टोनैलिटी से आपको 38% आप इस पाई में देख सकते हैं, आपको जज किया जा सकता है. And finally 7% is going to be the actual words that you say. So it doesn't necessarily matter what you are saying to somebody, as long as you are giving the right body language and you are giving the right tonality. Everything you say can basically sound good. So it's not about what you say, it's how you say it, and that's going to determine the first 5 seconds of whether or not someone likes you. And of course, as you get to know somebody, they are going to listen more and more into what you actually say. But when it comes to that first impression, know that it's all about physical appearance and your tonality, how you are sounding when you are speaking. So you want to pay attention to those things so that you get someone to like you right away, so that they are willing to listen to the words that you actually say later on this in the conversation. And just a little tip on how you should be dressing when you are going to any type of event. I call this the one notch rule. And so what you want to do is you want to think about who the best dressed person will be at any event that you are going to, whether it's a one-on-one coffee meeting or maybe it's a networking event where there's going to be a few hundred people. So you just have in mind what's the best dressed person going to dress like, whether they are male or female. Just match it to whatever. And then what you want to do is you want to take it one notch above. So just one notch above the best dressed person. And so when you are there at that meeting, you are there at that event, everyone's going to obviously be attracted to you because you are one notch above everybody else. The reason why you only want to go one notch is because if you go too far, it might actually work against. मुझे बात एक याद आई, मेरे फेयरवेल में सब अच्छे ड्रेस होके आए थे, but one of my friend was wearing a black suit. He was looking damn good, but he was looking a bit odd. क्राउड से हट के लग रहा था बिकॉज उसने ओवर ड्रेस कर लिया था. बट इफ यू आर ड्रेस्ड सिमिलर इन अ वे वेयर एवरीवन एल्स इज just the same, but you are one notch above, then people are going to see you as slightly better, and then you are going to win in that physical advantage. Obviously, if you have your own style dress however you want, but if you don't know and you need some tips, the one notch rule is the way to go. Now that we talked a little bit about the clothes that you should be wearing, let's talk about deeper into physical body language. There's a lot of research that supports that people like other people who are attractive, meaning your physical appearance is very important. So for example, when you watch a commercial, a lot of times they will hire attractive models to associate attractive people with their brand to make their brand look better. You have to really understand that even though it's superficial thing, people actually do pay attention to how attractive you are. It's part of the reason why girls wear makeup, white guys groom, we brown guys also groom and do their hair, and why people dress in a certain way, or maybe sometimes they wear a nice watch or nice jewelry because they wanted to send physical signals to show other people that they are attractive and they should be listened to. So if you go to the route where you dress, however you want to dress, there again people that gravitate towards you obviously, and other people might be repelled from you. So the thing you want to keep in mind is that if you do dress however you want to dress, don't get angry or frustrated when people don't treat you the same way they treat other people, because you are not giving up attractive signals. I know it's superficial, and I know that obviously you want to get to know the person from who they are, not necessarily like how they look on the outside. But know that people are human and they have to take these shortcuts to understand where they should be spending their time. So if you want to be more persuasive and you want to just hack the culture of how people are, if you dress more attractive, people are just going to be more willing to listen to you. So it really depends what your goal is. If you are just trying to be free and express yourself, do whatever you want. But if you are trying to be as persuasive as possible, really pay attention to your physical appearance, because it doesn't affect how people listen to you and how persuasive you can be. So far we do have a little deeper to understand the three elements of communication, and now I am going to show you even deeper how you can really get someone to like you from a psychological standpoint. And this technique is called mirroring and matching. So the gist of it is that people are more comfortable hanging around people that are just like them. And how you could become just like somebody else is to mimic their body language and their tonality and the words that they are saying. So being to show you the elements of communication, where it's 55% body language, 30% tonality, 7% your words. And these are the first 5 seconds of whether or not someone is going to like you and how they come to the conclusion. So from a body language standpoint, to make someone feel comfortable, all you really have to do is mimic. Don't really copy them, उनकी acting कभी नहीं करनी. What they are doing, do it. So let's say you are in one-on-one meeting and somebody sits down, relax, and they cross their legs. What you want to do as well is you want to sit down, relax, give a smile and cross your legs. Because if you just copy their body language, they are just subconsciously going to feel a lot more comfortable with you. So let's have the same example and let's do the opposite, where somebody sits down and relax and they cross your legs and you are very stiff and you cross your arms and you have a stern look on your face. That's a total mismatch ना. उसने पैर क्रॉस लेग करे, आप खराब सा मुंह बना के हाथ फोल्ड करके बैठे हैं, इंटरेस्ट नहीं दिखा रहे, then it's a mismatch. And they are not going to feel comfortable because they are going to wonder, why is this guy not relaxed? So what you want to do is just mimic other people who are in the room, and they are just going to subconsciously like you more because they think in their head, wow, this guy is just like me. Now the next thing is tonality. Now tonality you can be broken down into 3 different elements, and that is pace, volume and inflection. So the pace is how fast or slow you are speaking, right? Or if you are speaking like this, nobody can really understand you. Yeah, you're getting me now. But if you are speaking like this, people are going to obviously get really annoyed because they are a little too slow. And volume is going to be how loud you are speaking or how softly you are speaking, right? I'm talking about volume. So you want to just match the volume of the other person, because if you are speaking too loudly, they are going to think it's weird. Yeah, why this guy is shouting? If you are speaking too softly, they are also going to think it's weird as well. The last one is inflection, and it's going to be how you are speaking or how long you are speaking. So whether you are a guy or a girl, you can actually adjust your tonality to make it a little more higher or a little more smoother and like more FM radio kind of voice. So if you match that with the other person, instinctually they will be like, okay, well, this guy is just like me. And finally we are going to come down to the words. So when you are having a conversation with somebody, you have to keep in mind what words do they use in their book of vocabulary. So if you are in a business meeting and the person uses a lot of words are very which are very slang, like lit, or that's a dope bro, or whatever, you want to use these words as well and try to make it as natural as you can, assuming it is natural. So if they are on the other side of the spectrum, they are using more formal words, you also want to use formal words. So whatever type of words they are using, you want to take those words and put them into whatever you are saying, and then subconsciously they are going to think that you are just like that. So we covered the three different elements, which is body language, tonality, and the words. And again, you are mimicking what someone else is doing and saying, and their body language. हमको इसमें कुछ बहुत ज़्यादा scientific चीज़ नहीं कर रहे. And of course some people are going to say this is fake or so superficial. Why would you do that to get someone to like you? But the goal of this course is to learn how to become more persuasive in your communication skills. So if you are just acting like yourself and you are just doing whatever you want, people aren't always going to gravitate towards you. कोई आपसे खींचा ऑटोमेटिकली चला नहीं आएगा until unless you give your efforts. But if you understand these elements of communication, you can be so much more persuasive. So that's everything we got to cover when it comes to building a rapport. Understanding your body language, tonality, and the words you say. So what that, go ahead and use it. Use it in your daily life. Even you can try with your colleagues or friends, with your family members, and just see they will be influenced by you. वो आपसे मतलब आपकी हाँ में हाँ मिलाने लगेंगे next day उसी वक्त. Go out in the field and try it out. See if it works for you again. One of the most important technique is mirroring and matching and understanding how to trigger those things at a subconscious level. So let's go ahead to our second chapter. The name of second chapter is stereotyping. Now, as human beings, stereotyping is actually very common, and to demonstrate this, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, and I want you to pay attention to what your brain automatically thinks. So the first picture over here, we have a homeless man, right? So what are the first things that come to your head? This is somebody that you should stay away from. Do you think he's going to ask you for money, or do you think he's going to be a lot of trouble if you walk nearby? So what do you think is safe, or it's okay to hang out with this guy? So the next picture I'm going to show you is another guy who has a face tattoos. So when you are looking at this person, what you automatically think when you see somebody with the face with the tattoos? If you had your own company, would you hire this person? Would you stay away from this person? Maybe you would be attracted to this person. Next picture I must show you is this guy wearing a suit. So do you feel like you trust this guy, or is this guy someone that's not trustworthy? How does the fact that he's wearing a suit make you feel, and he's wearing Apple Watch or some watch? Would you suspect that he has a well-paying job and that he's successful, or do you think he's a fraud? What do you think there? And so with these three different pictures, obviously you are going to have different images in your head, and just naturally your brain will automatically categorize these people based on patterns that you have experienced in the past. So someone with face tattoos, you might have a certain assumptions. On someone who's wearing a suit, you might also have a certain assumption about them. So So let's try to compare this and put this together. When I put these pictures together, let's say we have the guy with the tattoo and the guy with the suit. If you are hiring somebody for a job, obviously you might go for someone with a suit because he is more professional. Now the guy on the left with the tattoo is actually an upcoming rapper named Lil Skis, and although he does have face tattoos, his message is very positive for the kids and he is very aspirational. Actually, of course, he's also going to be very successful in his career, meaning he's going to make a lot of money despite the fact that he is wearing a tattoos. And actually in this industry the face tattoos actually put him in a positive light. So the guy on the right in the suit, he literally can be anyone. He could be someone that's successful at his job or whatever, but he could also be a con man wearing a suit and he is out to get your money. You really just don't know. However, it's what you see at the physical appearance that influences you to stereotype a little bit. The thing about human nature is that it's very easy to stereotype people based on their physical appearance, whether they have face tattoos or they are wearing a suit. So regardless of whether or not you think negatively or positively of these two examples, what I want to bring up is the question, why is stereotyping so common? Because the truth is, no matter who you are, what you do, we all stereotype. And some people do it to a higher degree, some people do it to a lower degree. But this is just natural, psychological, human, it's a human instinct. And the reason for why stereotyping is so common in our everyday society is because stereotyping is actually a mental shortcut that allows us to analyze the world and make decisions a lot quicker. There's a lot going on in our environment from what we see on TV when we go outside of the street. We have to be careful who we are walking around, who we want to spend our time with, and it's just a very busy world. So our brain naturally cannot process all of this information. So by picking out different signals and recognizing patterns, our mind basically will stereotype based on our past experiences, so that we don't have to think about what we do all the time. Because if we spent our time analyzing every little thing, we would literally just get nothing done. So that's why our brain has a stereotype. And I am not saying it's bad or good thing, it's just a shortcut, a mental shortcut that we do so. So in our everyday lives, if we see someone like, let's say, a homeless person that looks dangerous on the street, our trigger features are going to automatically activate, and then we are going to naturally want to stay away from that because we do not want any trouble naturally. Or if we see somebody with a gun, that's a trigger feature, that means danger, and so we try to stay away from that. So these mental shortcuts allow us to actually be safe and really help us out in being the most efficient as we can be in our everyday lives. But the interesting part is that a lot of people have figured out what these triggers features are, and they can use them to become more influential, more persuasive, and can even use them for profits. An example I want to share with you are coupons. Essentially, coupons have a dual purpose, and that is they are going to save you time because they are going to show you what products that you should be looking at. And it's going to save you money because not only does it help you what products to look at, it also tells you that they are at a discount and that you should buy them if you are interested. Now all types of companies use coupons and discounts to drive people in the door to generate sales, and one company in particular I want to talk about is Nike. Nike does have sales all around their website in all different stores. But what's really interesting is that at Nike outlet stores all around the world, they would essentially price all the products at a discount. However, what they found was that the prices were actually the normal retail price, and they are just marked it up and created a fake discount to get people in the door and to buy the products. And so by abusing the fact that people tend to by product that they believe are discounted, they generated more sales, but they were actually being unethical and taking people into buying things that actually weren't on sale. And so what actually happened was there was actually a huge lawsuit against Nike, and they had to pay millions of dollars in fines for taking their customers. And so with that example, that's just one way of how a corporate company like Nike can use stereotypes, trigger features, and fix action patterns to trick human beings into buying more products. So the main lesson here is that stereotyping for the most part is good for human beings because it allows us to analyze things really fast, recognize patterns, and make decisions really quickly without having to sit down and look at every single piece of information. However, if you understand what these trigger features are, you can understand what people's fixed action patterns are. If you can use these stereotypes to your advantage and use them to become more persuasive. Now in this section, I just want to expose you to the idea of using stereotypes to your advantage. But throughout the entire chapter, I am going to give you strategies and tactics that you can use and what you can say to become more persuasive from an execution standpoint. Thank you. So in this lesson, we are going to talk all about conditioning and association. Okay, now there is a famous experiment by psychologist Ivan, and it was called the conditioning experiment. So in this experiment, he got a dog and essentially saw that when a dog is exposed to a type of food, the dog will salivate. Obviously, when somebody is hungry, whether a human or a dog, when they see good food, they are going to salivate. And what he wanted to test was that he wanted to associate the idea of food to ringing a bell. So when Ivan would do is that every time he would ring a bell, he would also bring out food, and so every time the dog saw the food, he would obviously salivate. Now what they found after doing this over and over is that when I have been ringing the bell without bringing out the food, the dog would continue to salivate. So this experiment proved that you could associate something like food to something that's completely unrelated to food, like ringing a bell. So in the dog's mind, the bell symbolizes food, and so every time the dog hears the bell, he or she is going to salivate. So this is an experiment obviously with a dog. However, this is the same for the case for almost all animals, where you could use the concept of conditioning, where you could associate something like a bell to food. You could also do it within humans as well. And we are going to show you how you can use the idea of associations so that you can be more influential with whatever you are trying to do. So a secret to this is to be viewed in a positive light. You want to associate yourself with positive things. An example of this is the company Hi Smile, which recently blew up in the last couple of years. What Hi Smile is, it's a startup that sells teeth whitening or toothpaste and mouthwash and any type of products that are of oral hygiene. And how they were able to get so big in the millions so quickly was that they use influencer marketing. And so what they would do is they would take their product and they would seed it to famous celebrities like Kylie Jenner, and they would post it onto Instagram. And so what would happen is that people would follow Kylie Jenner on Instagram, will associate Hi Smile as a cool brand and a brand that they should buy into because Kylie Jenner is also using it, and it's very attractive, and if you will use it, you will get bright teeth like Kylie Jenner. So they didn't stop here. They also pay Conor, the boxer, to create this ad where he is just in his back room holding the Hi Smile product. And so by association, Hi Smile, which essentially is a commodity product, right? You got to think about it's just toothpaste and teeth whitening which already exist in the market. By associating themselves with brands like Kylie Jennifer and Connor, they suddenly got an edge and become a lot cooler, and that is how they blew up. So the most important thing is when it comes to association is that it's important to establish a connection. It doesn't have to be a logical connection, it just have to be a positive one. Again, toothpaste doesn't have anything to do with fighting. However, when you put these things together, Connor, who was a positive brand, is going to translate that positive energy onto Hi Smile company. Another example of this is Alexis Rand, who is a famous Instagram motto. And what is interesting is the company Square Enix, which is famous for creating Final Fantasy games, used her in their ad campaign when they associated an attractive Instagram model to their game and built a connection. Now this is Instagram. I don't have anything to do with the game itself. Not really, because the game is about dragons and magic and things like that. However, by connecting the two, which isn't necessarily a logic connection, it is a positive one, and that is going to get a lot more exposure for the games and make the game a lot cooler to audiences worldwide. Here the thing that you want to ask yourself, so what can you associate yourself or your product or service with to create a desirable brand? So however you want to be perceived to the public or a specific group of people, what you can do and how you can position yourself so that you can be associated with the things that you want to be associated with. Whether that's to create a sexy brand or cool brand, smart brand, whatever it is that you want to be known for. You want to surround yourself with that type of environment. Use that energy to create that image for yourself so that you can be the most influential that you can be. So let's go ahead to our next strategy, give and take. So in this lesson we are going to talk about the law of reciprocation. Now a funny thing happens when you receive a gift, whether it's for a birthday present, some type of anniversary or even a baby shower. Whenever people get a gift, they always feel like they need to return the favor. हमने काफ़ी बार देखा है ना, हमारे घर कोई खाना भेजता है तो हम भी सोचते हैं कि हम भी इनके लिए कभी कुछ करेंगे. But it's not just limited to gifts. When somebody does any type of favor for you, psychologically you are going to naturally feel like when the time comes, you are going to have to do a favor for them. In a way, you are kind of indebted to their service. And as psychologist Robert Fox explains, our human ancestors learned to share food and skills, and they built this network. So this allowed different divisions of labor where people provided different skills and different products and they exchanged it with one another. For example, let's say you are a farmer and you need a new shoe, so you trade some food for a new shoe. And then it creates this network of interdependencies where people can focus on specific traits and then trade with one another. And that's part of the reason for why human society has been so successful so far. So there are a lot of benefits to the idea of reciprocity. Meaning when you do something for somebody else, you could collect the favor in the future. Because if the other person doesn't repay the favor, suddenly they are shunned by society as someone who is seen as a freeloader or mocher. हमने सुना है ना, कर भला हो भला. So this is really beneficial for everybody because the more you help your community, the more your community will return the favor and help you in return. And that's going to be a net effect of the success of the entire human population. And in everyday regular life example, if you own a house and you have neighbors, if your neighbors come to you and say, hey, can I borrow your lawn mower? You can lend it to him, and then one day if you ever need a favor from him, let's say you need to borrow certain tools or whatever the case is, you can go to him and you can expect this person to help you out because you help them out beforehand. Now, overall, the net effect of the law of reciprocity does help out human society as a whole. However, because these things are very understood, especially in today's business world, the law of reciprocity can easily be exploited. And to give you an example of how the law of reciprocity can be exploited, I am going to go ahead and share you a story of Krishna Nayar Society. So the Krishna Society is a religious group, and for whatever reason they need to collect donations to support their group. And so what they tried to do was they would go to high traffic areas like malls or like airports, and they would ask donations from random people walking by. And of course people aren't going to donate if they never heard of this society before or they don't care about it at all. So they just keep walking past. So what the Krishna Society actually did was they tried this technique where they would have their people collecting donations to go to this high traffic places once again like airports and malls, and instead of just asking somebody for a donation, what they would do instead is offer them a flower. So they would give a flower to a random bystander walking by, and the bystander would just say, "What is this?" And they say, "Well, it's a gift." And so the bystander will take the gift of the flower. Now the tricky part comes is when once the bystander accepts the gift, the Krishna Society fundraiser who is down the street will say, "Hey, we are a religious group and we need donations." Now the trick here is that because the Krishna Society person gave this person a flower, that innocent bystander who was walking by the road is now indebted to the Krishna Society member because the Krishna Society member did something which is giving a flower to the bystander. Even if that person didn't want it, they feel like they owe the other person something, and so naturally because they were given a flower, they will give a donation, whether it's small or big, to the Krishna Society member. And what typically happens is as that person is walking away with a flower in hand, they will just throw it away in the trash. However, the Krishna Society member gets the money, and a lot of times you could actually see that Krishna member going to the trash can, picking up the flowers outside of this trash, going back to their post and reusing the flowers over and over. So obviously it is a trick that is used to get people to donate when they don't want to, and it works extremely well because the Krishna Society member does a favor for you, so you owe them a favor. And it just so happens they need a donation outside of religious. Another company that uses a law of reciprocity is Warby Parker, which is one of the fastest growing sunglasses company today. And so what they do is they allowed you to try their glasses at home, so you could try whether or not it looked great on your face, and then if you don't like it, you could return it absolutely for free, just like Myntra, where they charged 1 rupees to you, and you can try different clothes at your home. And so the law of reciprocity in play basically makes a person feel like Warby Parker did them a favor of delivering the glasses absolutely for free, so they might as well just buy one of the glasses that they tried on. And this really works in terms of their growth strategy. So there's a lot of different companies who use this law of reciprocity and could think of it as abusing, depending on what your internet is, or could just be a business strategy to generate more revenue. Really, it's just how you perceive it. And the last example I am going to use at the law of reciprocity is actually Gary. So Gary actually has this rule called that 51-49 rule, where he will actually give 51% of the time, meaning most of the time. So he is somebody that will just give give. He will give favor to people, give advice, whatever it is that he can help with, he will give it to somebody else. And the crazy part is, he knows that one day, maybe in the future, that person might return the favor. But he doesn't have any expectations at all. So he has that mindset where he just giving, what the zero expectations. नेकी कर दरिया में डाल, कहावत सुनी होगी आपने. And that's going to allow him to be successful as a business person, because if you are very generous, that's going to build your brand amongst your community, and everybody knows you as the person that is gift giver, a giver, and tries to help everybody out without asking for anything in return. Of course, you are going to be seen in the positive light, so you can use the law of reciprocity to be someone that is just giving. And as karma works around, you will get whatever you deserve in return. But if you have zero expectations, you could just give and just live a wonderful life. That's just another way you can use the law of reciprocity to help yourself become more influential and more persuasive, and to get people to do whatever it is that you want to do. And of course, these types of rules and laws are tools that you could use for positive or negative intent. So it's really up to you to decide how you want to use these rules. So let's go ahead to our next strategy. We are going to talk about unfair exchanges, and these are going to be situations where somebody will do a favor for another person and then ask for something way larger in return. So let's go ahead and give you an example of this. So let's say somebody goes up to you and they do a small favor for you, whether it was solicited or not. And so you accept that favor, you say, okay, great. And so what? That person have leverage over you is that now when it's their turn to ask a favor from you, they can ask a large favor even if the favor are not equal. If somebody did you a favor, psychologically you are going to feel like you owed them something. If you feel like you owe anything to another person, that person has the leverage to ask a large favor. And psychologically, as human beings, we are going to have the need to want to return the favor, even if that large favor is significantly more challenging to do than the smaller favor that they paid you. So you can use this strategy. You can do small favor and ask them a big favor. However, you don't necessarily have to rob them of their favors, and you don't have to necessarily ask for a large favor. It's definitely up to you whether you use this trick for good or for evil. You can ask for equivalent favor or even a smaller favor than you gave to them. But what I want to do is I want to just show you that in this situation you can ask for large favors if you want. But if you don't want to ask for a large favor and you don't want to seem like someone who is taking too much, go ahead and reduce the size of that favor. However, I just want to show you that by doing a favor for somebody else, they are going to feel indebted to you, and in return you could get the favor back. And that's just the rule of रेसिप्रोकेशन. हमने काफ़ी लोगों के मुंह से सुना है कि मेरा लोग इस्तेमाल कर लेते हैं. सो दिस इज़ अ वेरी गुड स्ट्रेटेजी फॉर यू. रिटर्न, आस्क देम फॉर रिटर्न. सो इसी के साथ हमारा ये लेसन ख़त्म होता है, हाउ टू परसुएड समवन एंड हाउ टू इन्फ्लुएंस. मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ आप सभी इसे अपनी लाइफ में, बिजनेस लाइफ में, अपनी पर्सनल लाइफ में यूज़ करेंगे और काफ़ी अच्छे आपको इससे फ़ायदा मिलेगा अपनी लाइफ में ग्रो करने के लिए. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.